All right, all right. Shalom, shalom, Israel. All right, so welcome back to another beautiful Sabbath class lesson. So today's lesson is going to be, should we vote? All right, so that's been one of the biggest things going on in the spirit. You're seeing it happen on the news, social media, the whole nine. So should we vote? Everyone's trying to cast in their ballots, vote them. Make sure you vote. But now let's get into it. All right, so should we vote? One of the biggest things, get the book of Lamentations, chapter 4 and verse 17. Get the book of Lamentations, chapter 4 and verse 17.
The book of Lamentations, chapter 4 and verse 17. As for us,
Israelites, my people, so-called blacks and Latinos, read.
Our eyes as yet failed for our vain help.
It says, our eyes as yet failed for our vain help. Because in a place to where the biggest part where you're looking at voting, you're trying to elect a leader that you believe has your best interest at heart, that you believe will be a help in aiding you and your people and your communities to get into a better position, to improve your situation and your circumstances. But he says, yet and still for us, our eyes as yet failed. Meaning, getting tired of looking for something because no one is rising up and fulfilling what it is that we need them to do within our communities. And it seems that every time it's a chance to vote, we get riled up again and hoping somebody helps us. Somebody makes it better. Somebody provides the stimulus, the relief package to get us where we would like to be. So, looking for vain help, worthless help. But read on.
In our watching, we have watched for a nation that could not save us.
It says, in our watching, we have watched for a nation. We've been looking out for a people that could not save us. Because when you look at it, we're currently, especially for those Israelites dwelling in the land of America, we have been looking for a people and a nation that could not save us. Doesn't matter if you're voting for Biden or Trump. It's at the end of the day, they're both your oppressor. You're literally choosing between lesser evils. Which one is a little better than the other one? That's what you're stuck between. The common denominator is like, would you rather die by fire or die by water? Well, Bob, let me tell you that with the fire, I can hurt my flesh more, but I know it's going to be different with me just drowning and choking all this water. I got to see which way I want to go out. When neither one is truly in your best interest, what can I choose? The option where I can live and thrive. But now from there, let's go ahead and get the book of 1 Corinthians, chapter 6 and verse 1. Because what is voting accomplished for us truly?
The book of 1 Corinthians, chapter 6 and verse 1. Dare any of you.
So it says, dare any of you, read.
Having a matter against another.
Having a situation, problems, things that need to be solved. Read on.
Go to law before the unjust.
How can you go to law to seek justice from those who are unjust? Hold that. Get wisdom of Solomon. I want you to get the book of Wisdom of Solomon, and I want you to read chapter 2 and verse 1, and then verse 10 and 12. So let's go ahead and read Wisdom of Solomon chapter 2 and verse 1, and then we're going to read 10 through 12.
The book of Wisdom of Solomon 2, verse 1. For the ungodly said.
Who said?
The ungodly.
It said, for the ungodly said, read.
Reasoning with themselves, but not aright.
Because their reasoning is not right. That's the first thing you have to understand about the ungodly. Because right now we're living in a place that is ungodly, unrighteous. That's why when you keep looking at the justice system, you're not seeing true justice because, once again, you're dealing with people who are not just. And they allow their laws because, hold that, get Job 9:24.
Book of Job 9, verse 24. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked.
That's the first thing we understand. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. The wicked are ruling. So that's where, how can you expect righteousness from a system that is built upon wickedness? That is built against you. And that has laws, get the book of Daniel 8:25, that has laws that are set up, you can let that go in Job, get the book of Daniel 8:25, has laws that are set up literally to persecute you, literally to keep you at the bottom. It doesn't matter if you deal with the foundation, the Constitution. Oh, I hold these truths self-evident, that all men are created equal, yet and still had slaves. So whether you go back then, you go back closer to present, redlining. That all these things are done, legal practices to keep us as blacks, Latinos, Native Americans at the bottom. Systemic racism. So how can you use the system that is against you to try to somehow make it for you when it was never set up to be for you? That's right. At all. Read Daniel 8:25.
Book of Daniel 8, verse 25. And through his policy.
And through his policy. His policy is what? Let's get the definition. Policy. Go ahead and get that from dictionary.com. Let me get policy. Policy, and it reads, a definite course of action adopted for the sake of expediency, facility, a course of action adopted and pursued by a government, ruler, political party. Action or procedure conforming to or considered with reference to prudence or expediency. So now, the main one I want to bring up number 2. This is a course of action adopted and pursued by a government, ruler, political party. It is a governmental system that is designed against us as blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans. It is the government that is systemically oppressing us. That is the way it has always been. So when you look at their legal practices, they're able to use tactics within their laws that are constantly against you. Doesn't matter any spectrum you're looking at. Doesn't matter if you're dealing with buying a home, purchasing a car, credit, financing. It doesn't matter. They have laws that are systemically against you and practices that you've seen throughout many years and decades that many of our people have brought out. Heck, you even have Edomites that have brought it out. That's showing you that, hey, these were things that they were doing against us. Laws and practices against us. So now, go ahead and continue reading Daniel 8:25 from the top again, please.
And through his policy, also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand.
It says, through his policy, he shall cause craft to prosper. Causing wickedness and witchcraft, cooking things up all through his laws and making it seem as, because that's what happened. He doesn't have to be in a place to where he has to, what we would think, everything has to be literally, I have to show my hatred as openly as what you see now through Trump is now being able to be done, but he does it now through my laws, my policies. When you're looking to try to move into a nice neighborhood, it's like they discriminate against you. try to keep blacks and Latinos out of certain neighborhoods. They show you these less desirable houses. They go ahead and use other practices and say, it's this much. Hiking up prices or lowballing you when you're trying to sell your home. Recently, a brother and a sister were coming out, with information regarding that. But it's nothing new. So now, with all of that, in Daniel 8:25, may you finish?
And through his policy also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart.
So now it says he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, because through his legal system, he's able to have the advantage. He's able to have the advantage over us because it's all, he could put on a suit and a tie and says, we'll see, here in Article 3, Chapter 5, this is what makes it wrong for you to do A, B, C, X, Y, Z. But then you look and see him get away with stuff. He'll sit up there, your child can have the right credentials, things of nature, to get into the school and college that you would think they'd be good, but because, nope, you know what, we already met our quota, we don't need them. So now, from there, I want you to go back to Wisdom of Solomon. No, that's good. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 2, and let's read verse 1 again.
For the ungodly said, reasoning with themselves, but not aright.
So now, this chapter 2 goes with the ungodly, reasoning within themselves, but not aright. Skip down and read verse 10.
Verse 10. Let us oppress the poor righteous men.
That's where their mindset is. That's the mindset of it. Let us oppress the poor righteous man. Because especially when you look at the poor and you look at the rich, even think about Trump, it's tax. He's been evading either taxes, not paying, or paying hardly anything. Want to say, well, they say he paid $750 in taxes, as rich as he is. But see, that's what it is. It's systemic. The rich are always trying to look out for their own. Because most of the rich are who? Caucasian. Edomites. So they look out for their own. Give them the tax breaks. And most of the poor are who? Israelites. Blacks and Latinos. Therefore, tax the poor and try to do everything you can to allow the rich to have to pay hardly anything, although they're the key ones who have it to give. Have those who barely got anything, they just got the crumbs, and you expecting to break off from the crumbs that they have to put more back in the pot, while you're sitting there with the whole loaf, and you don't even want to break off crumbs from the loaf. That's just amazing. That's astounding. I'm flabbergasted. Got to use them words, huh? Here it is. Because think of the mindset. Imagine here, this is a man who has a whole loaf of bread. It's cut up in slices. Has a whole loaf of bread. He has a problem giving up a slice of the loaf of bread that he has, and would so much rather be in a place to where all I have is a slice, and he wants me to break half of the slice that I have to put back in the pot. Think about that. He won't give up a slice of his bread. He got a loaf. All I got is a slice. He want me to give half that slice. Or even if you want to do a better ratio, 1/4 of that slice. That is systemic oppression. That is not justice. So now, continue on in verse 10.
Let us oppress the poor righteous men. Let us not spare the widow.
See, they said, let us not spare the widow. It doesn't matter if you're in a place as a single parent, if you're struggling. It doesn't matter. Because here it is, our government, especially in America, because most of those who are here and even watching in America, we have it to where most of us as Israelites are in places to where we are feeling this pandemic the worst, because we're in a place to where most of us do not have occupations where you can work from home. Most of us have to physically be in a place of work in order to profit. So the main ones who are also being hit and devastated at this time is us. The ones being hit. The ones who are feeling it the most, but yet and still, how much stimulus is actually being given to make sure that the poor in this country are being taken care of? Very minimal, to where you can say hardly any at all. And then any sort of break that they're giving you on your mortgage, your bills, your rent, those things are all, it's just a temporary grace period. You still got to pay it back. They had temporary grace periods with a lot of these things, but if you look at a lot of the writing, a lot of the news articles that are coming out, you're still going to have to pay. They're just holding it off to where, well, we're not going to start making you pay till what, January, February? Don't quote me on it, look it up, but I want to say January, February. Unless last time I looked it up. Yeah, it's always switching, but that's what it is. So let's continue on in verse 10.
Let us oppress the poor righteous man. Let us not spare the widow, nor reverence the ancient gray hairs of the age.
Because now even those who are looking closer to retirement, they're even getting screwed over. Because now a lot of these jobs are saying, well, with everything going on, we can give you early retirement, but with half of your benefits. You're reading a lot of articles on that. Really? And they call that a blessing. I can let you go early, but give you half the benefits you're entitled to. I'm supposed to survive off of that. Whereas most of us aren't getting enough just off of the pension and 401k that we do have. It's looking bad. Let alone getting half of the benefits that I'm supposed to be entitled to the full amount of. But then the other way they'll do it is, all right, we'll just fire you all together close to the time. That's even the other way they get some of our people. But now, read on.
Let our strength be the law of justice. For that which is feeble is found to be nothing worth.
See that? They say, let our strength be the law of justice. That's not dealing with the scripture. What we know as far as to actually be just in laws, that's dealing with what they say today. Our justice system. The justice system area, which is really the irony, you know, because there's really no true justice in it. But that's what they're saying that they would rather abide by. They don't want to keep these laws of the scripture, but rather abide by their justice system, which is corrupt. Therefore, they love it because I can bend it to my will. Because the laws of the Most High do not favor the rich, the poor, have respect to persons, which I'll get later on. It deals with right is right, wrong is wrong. Doesn't matter if you're tall, short, fat, skinny, buff, in shape, out of shape, got money, don't got money, handsome, pretty, doesn't matter. It is there based upon your actions, what it is that you committed. That's what's being weighed. Not your social status, not how many friends you got, not what family ties you have, but what were the actions of that person that we can look and say that, this is the offense, this is the judgment according to the Most High and according to the law. Read on.
Let our strength be the law of justice, for that which is feeble is found to be nothing worth. Therefore, let us lie in wait.
Because that's the spirit. They said, let us lie in wait. Read on.
Let us lie in wait for the righteous.
Why?
Because he is not for our turn.
That's why they won't truly follow the Bible. That's why they truly won't follow this book known as the Bible, a collection of books, and actually enforce his practices because they know it's not for their turn. They be condemning themselves trying to go ahead and carry this forth. Because how many of them or in a place to where they have many errors, and not even just errors, but errors even punishable by death. Because how many, especially these cows, will have to be in a place to be put to death according to murder that thus saith the Most High? Unjustly, for example. This is why I get Psalms 146:3. This is why the Most High said this. Let's get the book of Psalms, chapter 146 and verse 3.
The book of Psalm 146 and verse 3. Put not your trust in princes, nor in the Son of Man, in whom there is no help.
Because he's letting you know that, look, at the end of the day, these rulers operating unjustly. You can't expect somehow to get righteousness out of an unrighteous situation. You have to make sure that you're doing your best to uphold righteousness and teaching others to do the same. Otherwise, you're going to always have a problem. And this is why the Most High said that, first and foremost, put yourself in me as your leader. Because that's the thing we don't understand. When you're calling on a God, you're calling on a power. Our power, our creator. We're supposed to be able to go to him for help, for mercy, for assistance. Get the book of 1 Samuel chapter 8. I'm going to read 5 through 18. Because the Most High God, he was the one that was our king, our ruler, our power, our leader, our president, our governor. It was him who had that slot. But we didn't like that. Because we wanted to be like the other nation. We wanted a human king. We wanted a human leader, a human president, a human governor, like the other nations had. I want to be able to see him face to face and talk to him. Ain't that enough? Get 1 Samuel 8, 5 through 18.
Book of 1 Samuel 8, verse 5. And said unto him, Behold, thou art old, and thy sons walk not in thy ways. Nor now make us a king to judge us like all the nations. But the things this...
They're talking to Samuel, said, look, you old. Make us a king like the nations. Read on.
But the thing displeased Samuel, when they said, Give us a king to judge us. And Samuel prayed unto the Lord.
And it displeased him because he understood that, man, why you want a king? Like, God is our king. Read on.
And the Lord said unto Samuel, Hearken unto the voice of the people and all that they say unto thee.
See that? Most High said, look, if that's what they won't, listen to him. Why? Read on.
For they have not rejected thee.
It said, look, at the end of the day, the problem isn't you. Read on.
But they have rejected me, and I should not reign over them.
It said, look, but they have rejected me that I should not reign over them. Because I'm the one who is supposed to be leading and guiding them. They've rejected me. Read on.
According to all the works which they have done since the day that I brought them out of Egypt, even unto this day, wherewith they have forsaken me and served other gods, so do they also unto thee.
And the same thing, we have to remember the Most High comes first. His laws come first before any man. Because at the end of the day, even me as Yatab, I can go left. Need that be a little left and I need guidance from someone else to help get me back on track? Or need to be far left and I go too far and I'm no longer operating according to righteousness. At the end of the day, what's going to continue to guide us to make sure we're on the right track? These laws. Because men and leaders are going to come and go. Need that be through age and time, or need that be through, how they walking accordingly and applying these words. But the Most High's word is what remains forever, and he remains forever. Read on.
Now therefore hearken unto their voice, howbeit yet protest solemnly unto them, and show them the manner of the king that shall reign over them.
Right, because once again, what comes along with the king? What comes along with the ruler? Read on.
And Samuel told all the words of the Lord unto the people, and asked of him a king. That asked of him a king. And he said, this will be the manner of the king, that shall reign over you. He will take your sons and appoint them for himself, for his chariots, and to be his horsemen, and some shall run before his chariots. And he will appoint him captains over thousands and captains over fifties, and will set them to ear his ground, and to reap his harvest, and to make his instruments of war and instruments of his chariots.
It says that, look, whereas you had a lot of freedom to do what you want to do, when you now have this government in place, the way that you do, with having this president, with having the leader, a lot of things, they're going to enact a lot of policies that aren't always going to be in your interest. You're not always going to have the option with. Because this person has so much power, control, and authority over you. Read on.
And he will take your daughters to be confessionaries, and to be cooks, and to be bakers. And he will take your fields, and your vineyards, and your olive yards, even the best of them, and give them to his servants.
And even the day in America, they're able to do that through their policy. Mm-hmm. You can own the house, you don't own the land. And let them find oil, boy, you axed out. Let them find resources, you axed out. Hey, policy. That's what policy. Before, not so. It was your land and your house. But who changed it? Your oppressor. That's what happens. Read on.
And he will take the tenth of your seed and of your vineyards.
Hey, he's going to tax you. That's what he's going to tax you. You got to pay this. Hitting you with this. We get taxed on everything. State tax, federal tax, everything you buy got to be a tax. And man, taxing your paycheck, everything. Read on.
And he will take the tenth of your seed and of your vineyards, and give to his officers and to his servants.
See that? That's how, once again, tax funded when it comes down to police force, firefighters, and, even other government affiliates. A lot of things, taxes pay for a lot of it. That's what it's good at dealing with. Read on.
And he will take your manservants and your maidservants and your godliest young men and your asses, and put them to his work.
Because America is built like a corporation. You're not truly building. Most of us aren't even working, occupied in jobs that really have a good relevance. When you look at most of the jobs before, they made sense. Everything worked as far as having a good, strong community. What do I mean by that? Most of us don't have land. Most of us don't have crops, food, sustainable resources. Most of us in a place to where you have to solely depend on someone else to take care of you. Before we had resources, we had a place to where we could be more self-sufficient, and as self-sufficient as you chose to be. In a place to where we could all have cattle, all have our own food, livestock, all be able to grow our own vegetation. Because that livestock wasn't just food, but you get clothing and things from it too. When you have sheep and oxen and cows and buffalo, the whole nine, and everything else in between, you're able to keep everything you need. All that he's taken away. Systemically. And made it a problem for you living off the grid. Ain't that something? Because he knows, I got to keep you involved in this corporation. You got to build what I want you to build. Where a lot of those jobs, you don't produce resources to survive on your own. That's the key. You got to stay plugged into the system. Read on.
Goodly is young men and your asses, and put them to his work. He will take the tenth of your sheep, and ye shall be his servants.
And we shall be his servants. They call it today employee. You're still working for him. You're still a servant, still a slave. Read on. You can look up, follow the word and definition yourself, but employee is still a slave. Read on.
And ye shall cry out in that day because of your king.
What, ain't people crying out today? They've been crying out. Every time you get some sort of president, some sort of leader, I want so-and-so, and then you start complaining, they're doing this, and this ain't right, and if it was this person, we would have been good. Especially as blacks and Latinos, how many times you done watch a leader and they ain't did right by us? And somehow we run right back to the vote. It was the wrong person. We got to get it right this time. Our people be up there, and you got a lot of our people be up there. Our forefathers, they died for a right to vote. They didn't die for a right to vote. That wasn't the biggest thing that they died for. Like, golly, we really want to make sure we vote in this system. They were fighting for the ability to have a fair shot in this system, to be treated fairly, to be in a situation of having some sort of equality. The biggest thing is not to be oppressed. That's the biggest thing that they were fighting for, is not to be in a situation where we are systemically oppressed. Through the government, police brutality, the whole nine, that's what they were looking at. That's what they were fighting and dying for. The right to not only not be in shackles and be free, but to be free from oppression. And both need to be outright racism or systemic racism. But the biggest thing our people highlight, especially them, is voting. Read on.
And ye shall cry out in that day because of your king, which ye shall have chosen you. And the Lord will not hear you in that day.
See that? He said, the Lord ain't going to hear you because, look, it's what you wanted. It's what you said. So now, get Isaiah 43 and 15. Just get the one of most of us says, I'm supposed to be your king. I'm supposed to be your ruler. The one over you, your president. Read that in Isaiah chapter 43 and verse 15.
Isaiah 43, verse 15. I am the Lord, your Holy One, the Creator of Israel, your King.
See that? He says, I'm the Lord, your Holy One. He said, the Creator of Israel, your King. That's the one that's the one who's supposed to be following and who's supposed to be leading and guiding us. Now let's get more how to choose your king. So now first is understanding that they must be your people. Get the book of Deuteronomy, 17, 14 through 15. Let's get the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 17, verse 14 through 15.
Deuteronomy 17, verse 14. When thou art come unto the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee, and shall possess it, and shall dwell therein, and shall say, I will set king over me, like as all the nations that are about me, thou shalt in any wise set him king over thee, whom the Lord thy God shall choose, one from among thy brethren shall thou set king over thee.
So he said, look, when it comes to a situation, that's why the Most High put these laws in place even before. He said, look, if ever you get into a place where you're going to choose you a king, governor, ruler, leader, the biggest thing is to make sure that Most High is dealing with them. That's the biggest thing. And it explains. First, you got to make sure that one from among thy brethren, your people. Do not put some other people over you. Read on. Read that.
Thou mayest not set a stranger over thee, which is not thy brother.
That's the biggest thing. Do not set another nation over you that is not of your people. That's the biggest thing. Make sure that they are of your people. Get Jeremiah 30 and 21. One more precept with that. Because the biggest thing is understanding your people understand your problems. Your people understand your affliction, what's going on with you. There's a relatability factor. And there's also a situation where there should be a personal interest in being able to try to help your people get into a better situation. Read Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 21.
30:21, the book of Jeremiah. And their nobles shall be of themselves, and their governor shall proceed from the midst of them.
That's the way it's supposed to be. Because at the same time, same thing you see with the way Esau does it. Their nobles shall be of themselves, and the governor shall proceed from the midst of them. Because one thing you notice, same thing you see with Esau. He makes sure he keeps nobility in the family, wealth in the family, rulership in the family. That's the way you keep it, because the goal is to make sure that we rule for as long as possible. And they understand the reasoning behind that and the importance of it. To make sure you keep it within the blood, keep it within the family. And they're very cognizant on who else that they let into that circle. They're very cognizant of it because they know it's detrimental letting the wrong person in or marrying the wrong person and being joined unto them. He said, you got to be careful. So now from there, let's go ahead and get the next part. You got to make sure you prove this person. Get Sirach 6 and 7. Person has to have a reputation. And not just any reputation. That's the biggest thing. You have to prove this individual or these individuals. It's Sirach chapter 6 and verse 7.
Sirach 6 and 7. If thou wouldest get a friend, prove him first, and be not hasty to credit him.
So it says, if thou wouldest get a friend, prove him first. When you're proving something, you're putting it to the test. Trying to see how valid it is, how reliable, how sure, how trustworthy it is before I can put my trust in this. And it says, be not hasty to credit him, because being too hasty, being too quick to say, oh, shoot, this is a good person, good man right here, can lead you in a place to where you could have been easily deceived or manipulated. And now you end up with the short end of the stick. I didn't know he was like that. But how well did you prove the situation? Because why? Read on in verse 8. This is a big part of it, because someone say, well, look, looks like this person is our people. But yeah, but did you prove to see where their heart lies? They can look like a black or brown person, doesn't mean they have the spirit of one. Their spirit and their mentality can be adverse towards black and brown people, although they seem to look like one. You can have that. Then the brother said Kamala Harris, but it's many. Read on.
For some man is a friend for his own occasion.
Because that's the thing. Many become friends for their own occasion. They become personally invested in their new political circle or arena of friends that they start cooning out. Read on.
And will not abide in the day of thy trouble.
You see that? And it's very particular because it says it will not abide in the day of thy trouble. For their own occasion, they good, but when now you're in need, you need help. No, they're nowhere to be found. You can look at the hood. It don't matter if it was under Trump, Obama, whoever it is, Kennedy, hood still look the same, And people say that, because when someone has the best interest of the community, they're going to pour into that community. The rich and Esau make sure they pour into their communities. They take care of their communities on all levels. Doesn't matter if you deal with from housing to public libraries to even the schools, the equipment at the schools, and the resources that go to those schools. Everything you're looking at, they pour into theirs, but not into ours. And you be hearing the things these kids in the other communities be doing versus our community be like, man, y'all got all the extra electives, all the extra, enrichment. They make sure they give it to their communities and the communities in their schools, but not to ours. They make sure ours be the first ones that get defunded and lack the funding. So now, let's go ahead from there. Let's get Ecclesiasticus chapter 37 and verse 12.
The book of Sirach 37 and verse 12. But be continually with a godly man.
Because when you're looking at someone who is serving in an office, especially one that is generally going to be for a long period of time, you want to make sure that you're dealing with someone who's continuing a position like that they're a godly man. When we say godly, it's not just, this person they just a God-fearing person, but no, they're truly upright, upholding righteousness that thus saith the Lord. Read on.
Whom thou knowest to keep the commandments of the Lord.
You guess?
That thou knowest to keep the commandments of the Lord.
Just because he say he do.
Knowest to keep the commandments of the Lord.
That means what you're able to see and witness from this person, their dealings, they're walking upright. They're following these laws, statutes, and commandments. And they're doing their best to do so. Doesn't mean that everything about them is going to be flawless. It just means that for the most part, they got it together. For the most part, I can see this person is pretty sound according to what I can tell that the Most High laid down a righteous person should be. That's what you're able to see and that you're able to look at. Read on.
Whose mind is according to thy mind.
That's the key thing. Whose mind, whose mentality is according to your mind. And both of your mentalities and minds should be about being upright and doing and looking out for your people. And looking out for the poor in your community. The widow, the fatherless. That's the big thing, because in our community, most of the time make sure that we looked out for the poor of our people. The fatherless, the widows. Because guess what? When you look out for those that lack, you're going to improve your economy. You're going to improve your situation. You're going to have less crime. Why? Because instead of making a situation where you just allow criminals to be criminals, you rehabilitate them. You get them resources to where they can turn away from those lives of crime and be able to sustain themselves. Because you don't just have a situation where you're just talking to kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? A criminal? A felon? You don't have that. A lot of these things happen due to lack of resources and turns in life to where things could have been and gone better, but due to lack of resources, lack of help, they turn to other alternatives to try to get what they needed, try to sustain themselves. Because when I have certain, especially when I have certain things on my record, it becomes even harder to find things to sustain myself. So it puts me in a place of a compromising situation to where, what the hell do I do? And many, I gotta still survive. So for many, it puts them in a trap to where it almost forces them to go back to the same lifestyle that got them convicted in the first place. Same thing with the homeless. Many of them are in places to where they need help on various levels. Some were homeless because they lost jobs. Some just need an opportunity to get back on their feet. Others battling with other situations of mental illness or drug addiction, things of that nature, but you had different cases. But when you have resources in place to help all those communities, you're going to have less homeless, you're going to have less crime. Nowadays, all the government wants to do is put down homeless deterrents, which many see those little uncomfortable spikes, and some put rocks, all sorts of things. Some put bars and things of that nature to where they try to drive the poor and homeless from those areas. You see many ways. Sometimes it's the bars in between where no one can lay down on the bench. Other times it's strips of uncomfortable pavement in front of certain areas to where you can't really lay down right there because it's too uncomfortable. They'll spend money on deterrence instead of spending money on resources and plans to help take care of these people properly, to try to get them to be productive members of society. The laws teach us that. Because through there, you'll be able to have, the laws will teach us to make sure the poor always eat. They have policies where it's perfectly legal if you have people who are poor or homeless who came to your yard and started picking the fruit and vegetables and eating right there while they were there. They couldn't take bunches of home, things of that nature, but they can eat right there. That keeps them fed and then keeps them from stealing. It reduces crime. Because why'd you have to go down there and say you could have came over here and ate? Look out for your own. Which easily Americans do in places where they waste hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars worth of food by just tossing it out instead of just donating and giving it. You mean to tell me we couldn't put forth a policy to where anything within such and such date and time of expiration put out to make sure that the homeless can come and eat and take what they want and get what they need? I will buy a store. Even then, they have the policy where not only do they throw the stuff away, but it's against policy to even give to you what it is they're throwing away. I've asked, like, man, you throwing all that away? Yeah, we got to throw it. We got to dump it. Like, man, I can't get none of that? It's like, nah, can't get none of it. You know, stuff that still be good. Food that still be good. To where as many people, not even just homeless, but even just poor people in the community that can use that food, that can use it within that week before they got to toss it. But we don't look into that because we live in a capitalistic, greedy society that only cares about the dollar value I can gain from this. That if I can't gain a dollar value out of it, then throw it away. They do the same with other things, like clothes too. It's not trending anymore, toss it. When that can be donated to help others. But because this society in America is so fake, and it teaches to be fake, everyone wants to act like they're charitable, get a selfie, I'm helping, but no one really wants to be in a place to where life places to really truly donate and be selfless. It's only when it has some sort of monetary value or some sort of publicity attached to it, then we want to be good. But we don't want to be good for goodness sake. So now, get Joshua 1 and 8. Get the book of Joshua chapter 1 and verse 8.
Book of Joshua 1, verse 8.
And let me get verse 7 first. Give verse 7, then verse 8.
Verse 7. Only be thou strong and very courageous.
Because that's the biggest thing. When trying to operate according to these laws, you have to be strong, you have to be courageous. Because many people are not going to want to operate according to the law. They're going to want to deviate from it. So especially as a leader, you got to be strong and courageous. Because it takes a level of mental and spiritual strength to not only follow these laws yourselves, but to also teach others to do the same and hold them accountable to do the same. The accountability is the biggest factor. Because many times we don't like to be held accountable and told we're messing up. We got to get it together. Heck, certain things I've been messing up. You know, certain time being late, I got to plan better. We'll try to do today so I can make sure I start on time. Because I'm holding up progress and that's affecting, you know, everyone else. Others are suffering for my negligence. So I have to fix the error of my way, which, hey, I'm working on, I'm practicing. Read on.
Only be thou strong and very courageous, that thou mayest observe to do according to all the law.
Some of the law?
To all the law.
The parts I prefer.
All the law.
All the law. That's what we all have to do. There's always going to be parts that you're not going to want to do. You're not going to, in certain times, you're not going to feel like doing it all the time. But you understand it's the right thing to do. That's why it's righteousness. It's the right thing to do. Read on.
Which Moses my servant commanded thee. Turn not from it to the right hand or to the left.
Meaning don't try to slack on this side or this side. Don't try to bend it and you can't do that. Because the biggest thing he does is hold that. Let's get the book of Jeremiah, I want to say I want chapter 2, verse 33. Yep, Jeremiah chapter 2, verse 33. Biggest thing in making sure you don't do this, which is done all day long in this injustice system. Read Jeremiah 2:33.
Why trimmest thou thy way to seek love?
Because that's the biggest thing you cannot do. You cannot begin to trim your ways or cut corners to try to seek love, admiration, donation. There is none of that. No bribes, no donate, no, none of that. No, oh, this is my friend, I'm going to look out for him this way and bent. No, you can't do that. That would make one wicked. To my left, my brother, love him. Heart goes out to him. But if he wicked, I got to let him know he's wicked. If I'm wicked, he should do the same for me too. It's supposed to be a two-way street. Or if I'm messing up on something, he's messing up with something. That's the way it should be because that's love. Because now, read on the rest of that in Jeremiah.
Therefore hast thou also taught the wicked ones thy ways.
Because that's what happened. You teach the wicked ones your ways. And they begin to more so prosper. Go back and read Joshua 1 and 8.
This book of the law shall not depart out of thy mouth, but thou shalt meditate therein day and night, that thou mayest observe to do according to all that is written therein. For then thou shalt make thy way prosperous, and then shalt thou have good success.
So you see that? And get the book of Habakkuk, chapter 1 and verse 4. Because now it says in a place to where, look, this book of the law shall not depart out of thy mouth. Meaning what? When it comes down to what it is that you're going to speak on, you got to deal with righteousness first. And then on top of that, it said, but thou shalt meditate therein day and night, that thou mayest observe to do according to all that is written therein. Now, that means necessarily I have to literally always be reading these scriptures and thinking about that all day and all night. No, but it's letting you know a situation where it should be on your mind whenever it is you're thinking to do something. This is what should be on your mind and at your forefront. To make sure that you're observing these things to do according to all that is written therein. For then, it says, shalt thou make thy way prosperous, and then shalt thou have good success. That's why certain problems we still haven't solved, because we haven't been applying it lawfully. Just like I mentioned before, time we're dealing with certain aspects of crime and poverty, certain things you'll be able to greatly improve through applying and dealing with it righteously. But those are things we don't want to enforce. Same like that with you'll fix a lot of hungry and starving families if you made policies that took better care of your poor. With food we already have within our stores. That is just going to be thrown out anyway. Why put in the trash when you can put it in mouths and feed them instead? Which would guess what that would also do? That will help them not have to go without food and be hungry. That's going to help increase their what is the word that I'm looking for? The biggest thing coming to mind is their morale. It's going to increase their morale. They're going to feel better. They're going to feel happier. Because one less thing they have to worry about. And guess what? Another thing they're going to do is save some money. Save some money in their pockets. That's the biggest thing they don't want you to do is save money, because they want you to spend it. But they're able to save money. And guess what? If they're able to save money, they're going to love and appreciate you more as a leader and as a government, because you're looking out for your people. But America truly does not look out for its people. So now, let's get Habakkuk chapter 1, and let's read verse 4.
The book of Habakkuk 1, verse 4. Therefore the law is slack.
So good, when the law is slack, which it is now, read.
And judgment doth never go forth.
And righteous judgment, true judgment, does not go forth. Read on.
For the wicked doth compass about the righteous.
Because when the law becomes slack, you now have a place to where righteous judgment is not going forth. And if righteous judgment is not going forth, the wicked start to encompass the righteous. the wicked start to come into power and seize control to where they drown out the righteous. So therefore, good becomes evil and evil becomes good. Read on.
Therefore, wrong judgment proceeded.
And when that happens, when the wicked are in power and they outnumber the righteous, then now wrong judgment proceedeth. Which is why you can't look for justice. So now from there, let's get the next thing. Must be men of truth. Get Proverbs 8 and 4. It must be men of truth. Get Proverbs chapter 8 and verse 4. Let's get that in the scriptures.
The book of Proverbs 8 and the 4th verse. Unto you, O men, I call.
Unto who?
Unto you, O men.
Unto children?
O men.
Women.
Men.
Females, if they do okay?
Men. Unto you, O men, I call, and my voice is to the sons of men.
So it is the men that the Most High is calling to be in a place of authority. He called men to be the leaders in that regard when it comes down to leading and guiding on that level. Need that be country or congregation. That's what you're dealing with. Get Exodus 15 and 3. That's thus saith the Lord. Not thus saith one's emotions. Not thus saith that it's just what I want, or, I can do this, thing of that nature. But no, what the Most High says, what the scriptures say. Read Exodus 15 and 3.
The book of Exodus 15, verse 3. The Lord is a man of war.
The Lord is a man of war. He's a masculine spirit, not a feminine spirit, but a masculine spirit. He says, I am a man of war. Read Romans chapter 9, verse 14. Because many still, they have a problem with that.
The book of Romans 9, verse 14. What shall we say then? Is there unrighteousness with the Most High?
So there unrighteousness then with the Creator? Because this is what it is He's putting forth and how He feels about it? Read on.
God forbid.
He says, God forbid. Is that all that? Go ahead and get 1 Timothy chapter 2 and verse 12. You can actually read 11 through 13.
1 Timothy 2 and 11.
1 Timothy chapter 2, verse 11 to 13.
1 Timothy 2, verse 11. Let the woman learn in silence with all subjection, but I suffer not a woman to teach.
So now that's the key thing. But I suffer not a woman to teach in the regard of what? Read on.
Nor to usurp authority over the man.
That's the key thing. That is a problem. That's why the same way, like it says, read in Revelation. Let that go. Well, you can hold that, but get the book of Revelation, chapter 2, and read verse 20.
Revelations 2, verse 20. Notwithstanding, I have a few things against thee, because thou sufferest that woman Jezebel, Jezebel, which calleth herself a prophetess, to teach and to seduce my servants.
Because that's what happens. A lot of these women are trying to be proud, trying to be teaching the same light in regard as a man, and that's out of order, according to the Most High. They can't be leading in that capacity. Scripture still say the women can, teach, but it's in a different capacity. Let me just reference that. Get the book of Titus, chapter 2, and let's get verse 3.
The book of Titus 2, verse 3. The aged woman likewise, that they be in behavior as becometh holiness, not false accusers, not given not given to much wine, teachers of good things.
Like it says, the aged woman likewise that be in behavior as becometh holiness, holy behaviors, So it says not false accusers, so not given to much wine. Not that they can't drink, but got to moderation, because you got to have a certain, look of respectability. So now it says teachers of good things. What good things? Hold that at Romans chapter 7, verse 12. I got you holding a couple places, but get Romans 7 and 12. We'll come right back to Titus chapter 2 and read verse 4. But Romans chapter 7, verse 12.
The book of Romans 7, verse 12. Wherefore, the law is holy, and the commandments holy, and just and good.
And what?
Just and good.
So the law is what is holy, just, and good. That's what the woman's supposed to be teaching. Especially be teaching the younger women. And now, read on and go back to Titus chapter 2, read verse 4.
Titus 2, verse 4. That they may teach the young women to be sober, to love their husbands, to love their children.
Read on.
To be discreet, chaste, keepers at home, good, obedient to their own husbands, that the word of the Most High be not blasphemed.
Because that's it. It's to fulfill the word of the Most High, that it be not blasphemed. That's order with the Most High. Also get Sirach, chapter 3 and verse 2. And then we'll go back to 1 Timothy 2.
Book of Sirach 3 and verse 2. For the Lord hath given the father honor over the children, and hath confirmed the authority of the mother over the sons.
Because once again, a lot of women, they hear these things, they get offended because they feel as if it is a bad situation. When that is order, and that is what's needed. The woman serves as the pillar of the household. The woman serves as the pillar of the nation. Woman's supposed to be a pillar of rest. She's supposed to be the support. What happens to a nation without support? What happens to a military without support? The woman plays a key part, but that does not mean she plays the role of the man in a relationship. Each have their own respective roles. Are there men who can't operate in the capacity and do a lot of the duties of a woman? Absolutely. But is a man going to be able to fulfill those duties better than women? No. You line up 10 men, 10 women, get them both to do womanly duties, then 10 women are going to outweigh those 10 men. But you may have them 1 or 2 men that, hey, they stick and they own it. Same is true vice versa. You take 10 men, you take 10 women, put them in the army, see who does best, put them on a test, see who's going to do better. The men. You may have that sister to where, oh, she's tough, she can handle it. But generally, what are you looking at? Same way when it comes down to leaders, same thing with everything else. Most High put everything in its right, that's what he made it to be. Not what you want it to be, but what the Most High created it to be, justly and in order. What he gave foundationally, that this is what I created this to do. And this is why I created this to do. He created the man to lead and the woman to support the man that leads. That was the whole thing with Adam and Eve. He made Adam to rule, to lead, and gave him Eve to help support him while he's leading. To be that help unto him. So the women are needed, and they're a vital part to the nation. They just play a different role within the nation. That's what you're looking at. But that's nothing new. I've done lesson before as far as the one I did shoot on Mother's Day with the woman of the 50s and 60s woman. And how vital our women were in the job and work that it took to be a good mother and a good wife. It's hard work. But when you have a system, which America did, especially through Esau, primarily, that downplayed the significance of that help and support, now you make it a problem. Now you make it less than, and that's what happened. So don't allow a system to downplay the significance of the help and leadership ability of our women, because read Proverbs 31. A good wife is going to be a good leader, just not in the same capacity as a man. She's going to make good business calls, good judgment calls. She's going to be in a place where she can be a good, secretary, a good administrator, things of that nature, to where she's there for that support. And that time to take that initiative, actually a lot of time to take initiative, as long as she's moving right. So we don't downplay the abilities nor the importance of our sisters and our women. And I just want to make sure I touch that, lest people be thinking, sound misogynistic. You know, no, this is order from the Most High. What he says is righteous. So now, let's go ahead and let's get Exodus 18 and 21. And then verse 25. Oh, yeah, get that in Timothy. Thank you.
Let the women learn in silence with all subjection.
So that doesn't mean,
Messing with y'all.
look at it. That doesn't mean, shut up, woman, you can't never say nothing. But no, it's making a point to where a man can't be able to lead if he's always in a place. Think about the negative connotation with our women, that how can he lead and guide this woman where she won't let him speak? She's always trying to be the one wearing the pants in a relationship. She's always trying to lead and guide things. She has to be in a place to where she's able to subject herself to this man and allow herself to be guided and led by this man. Read on.
But I suffer not a woman to teach, nor to usurp authority over the men, but to be in silence.
That isn't a place to where she can't. So you mean as a woman, I can't show my husband? What if I understand on this, I can't show or teach him this? It's not saying that. It's dealing in a sense with over the congregation, over the body, in a place to where you're usurping authority, or you're in a place to where you're trying to teach him in an authoritative type of situation. That's what it's dealing with. Read on.
For Adam was first formed, then Eve.
Because let you know, Adam was first formed, and then Eve. Man comes first. Read verse 14.
And Adam was not deceived.
Because Adam wasn't the one who was deceived. Adam knew what it was. He checked it. But what happened?
But the woman being deceived was in the transgression.
It was the woman that was deceived. Well, didn't Adam mess up? Yes, of course Adam messed up, but he was seduced. Because when you look at a lot of men, that's what happening. A lot of men check stuff. A lot of women entertain stuff. The woman likes to take that stuff to the man, and a lot of times that man is there to be seduced by the woman. And that's why it was always customary where salesmen made sure they came when the man was away to try to see if they can finagle some stuff to get the woman to buy in, which the woman before, in old time, 50, 60 on back, would say, man at home is in the house, I can't make that decision. I got to wait. I got to see. Because I got to see if that's in the best interest, and if that's what it is, he's saying the direction we should go in. Having that respect. So now, let's go ahead. Read on. Verse 15.
15. Notwithstanding, she shall be saved in childbearing, if they continue in faith and charity and holiness with sobriety.
Because many see that just childbearing. It's not just about, I just popped out a baby. Childbearing has everything to do with the importance of growing your nation. These children will one day grow up to be grown men and grown women. What did you instill in them? How did you guide them? Because even looking at the nature of our people today, it's due to a lack of having that right leader in there, having that male figure in the household, and it being 100% more than likely in most situations, the woman raising the children that is given the product of these sons and daughters we see in our society today that we have such a problem with. Because the correlation to a rise in standard of more negative attributes in our men and women is directed towards, at the same time, of our men being more so out of the picture of the households, not having that right leadership and guidance in the households from that masculine father figure. So now go to Exodus 18, 21, and 25. Give the book of Exodus chapter 18, verse 21 and verse 25.
Exodus 18, verse 21. Moreover, thou shalt provide out of all the people able men, such.
I'm even back it up. Because now I want you to start with verse 16.
16. When they have a matter that come unto me, Salakia, when they have a matter, they come unto me, and I judge between one and another, and I do make them know the statutes of the Most High and His laws.
Because that's the key thing we're supposed to make sure our people know, are these statutes and laws. That's what a good leader is going to make sure he's teaching. Because that's going to show you how to conduct yourself properly, how to make sure righteousness is going forward so that we can have good success. The success is first and foremost predicated upon righteousness in the application of these laws, these statutes, these commandments, and the judgments with them, the consequence for breaking these laws. Then from there, you can build in other avenues as far as economics and finances and business. That all comes secondary. Righteousness comes primary. Otherwise, those other areas are not going to have as much success as you would like them to have. Now, I want you to go on, skip down to verse 20 and read verse 20 through, we'll read 20 through, we can read 20 through 22. Then we'll skip down to 25.
Verse 20, and thou shalt teach them ordinances and laws, and shalt show them the way wherewith they must walk, and the work that they must do. Moreover, thou shalt provide out of all the people able men.
Able women.
Able men.
Able children.
Able men.
So it said, moreover, thou shalt provide out of all the people able men. Got to be able. Read on.
Such as fear the Most High, men of truth, hating covetousness, and place such over them to be rulers of thousands and rulers of hundreds, rulers of fifties and rulers of tens.
That's how you set up government, to have it operate effectively. Read verse 22.
And let them judge the people at all seasons.
No one can judge you.
Let them judge the people at all seasons.
He said, let them judge the people at all seasons, meaning at all times. Skip down and read verse 25.
25. And Moses chose able men out of all Israel.
Out of all nations?
Out of all Israel.
Chose able men out of all Israel, read.
And made them heads over the people.
And made them heads, authorities, rulers, governors over the people. Read on.
Rulers of thousands, rulers of hundreds, rulers of fifties, and rulers of tens.
So that you have rulers over districts, cities, counties, states, things of that nature. So now from there, let's get Psalms 119, 142. Because the biggest thing, like it said men of truth. What is the truth? Let's get Psalms 119, 142.
Psalms 119, verse 142. Thy righteousness is an everlasting righteousness, and thy law is the truth.
That's the biggest thing. Men of truth, they must be men of the law. All right, let's go ahead and let's from there, like we said, must be capable. Get 1 Timothy 3, 2 through 7.
First Timothy 3, verse 2. A bishop then must be blameless.
So it says first, a bishop then must be blameless. A bishop is what? A bishop is an overseer. That's what you're looking at. You get it from in your concordance, your Strong's Concordance, G1985. All right, so you're dealing with bishop is an overseer. All right, read on. So an overseer must be in a place as far as being blameless. He has to have a good reputation. He has to be in a place not only having a good reputation, but a righteous reputation. That's what it's dealing with. Read on.
The husband of one wife.
So now, the husband of one wife. One reads that, many read that and think he can literally only have one wife, when that's not the case. When it means the husband of one wife, it is dealing with he cannot have a situation where him and his wife are not on one accord. He can't have a situation where it's division in his household. He's going left, wife going right. That's not going to be conducive, because then people are going to see to where that leader's going one way. He's righteous and saying that, look, I'm telling y'all, make sure y'all don't get tattoos. Y'all don't get, it's like, I'm a bishop. What does it look like? I'm telling y'all, make sure y'all don't get tattoos. Make sure y'all keep the Sabbath. And y'all look at my wife or my wife. They not keeping the Sabbath. They getting tattoos. They doing all of this. How you going to tell me? That's what it's dealing with. let's further elaborate on that. Hold that. We're going to come back to that. Get the book of Philippians, chapter 2 and verse 2. And first, let me get Deuteronomy 17 and 14.
Book of Deuteronomy 17 and verse 14. When thou art come unto the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee, and shall possess it, and shall dwell therein, and shall say, I will set a king over me, like as all the nations that are about me.
So we're dealing with the king, ruler, governor. Skip down and read verse 16. This is one of the problems. This is what it's referencing.
But he shall not multiply horses to himself, nor cause the people to return to Egypt, to the end that he should multiply horses, for as much as the Lord hath said unto you, ye shall henceforth return no more that way.
And read verse 17.
Neither shall he multiply wives to himself, that his heart turn not away. Neither shall he greatly multiply to himself silver and gold.
Now the scriptures aren't saying that he can't have a lot of horses, wives, gold, silver, things of that nature. What it's pointing out is that he cannot use his position for gain to multiply those things. That's what it's dealing with. I can't use my position to now, I'm gaining this because, oh yeah, see, I'm bishop here. That's what it is. I'm using my power to try to flex to have these things. And that's what you see a lot of politicians do. They use their status, they use their position to try to go ahead and gain more of those things, to where the scriptures say, no, you're not supposed to do that. That's what it is you're dealing with. Go ahead and get Philippians 2 and 2.
The book of Philippians 2, verse 2. Fulfill ye my joy, that ye be like-minded.
Having be what?
Like-minded.
Like-minded, read.
Having the same love.
Having the same love, read.
Being of one accord.
Being of one accord. That's what you're dealing with. That is that oneness, being of one accord. Read.
Of one mind.
Of one mind. That is what you're dealing with. That's when you deal with the same, no different than when you deal in Genesis, one flesh, one mind, one accord, one wife. So now go back to 1 Timothy chapter 3 and verse 2. Because of course someone said, well, shoot. End of the day, well, shoot, I just ain't going to be a bishop then. But that's the understanding of it, all right? So now let's go ahead and continue reading in 1 Timothy chapter 3 and verse 2.
1 Timothy 3, verse 2. A bishop then must be blameless, the husband of one wife, vigilant, sober, of good behavior, given to hospitality, apt to teach, not given to wine, no striker, not
So now,
greedy.
even in this case, doesn't mean he can't drink. It's given a place to where he cannot be in a place to where he is excessive. He has to maintain a certain look and status, reputation. No different than like Slim, one wife, same thing with in this regard. Doesn't mean he can't drink. He has to make sure he's not being excessive, making sure he's not getting drunk and maintaining a certain look. All right, so that becomes of his position. Now read on.
Not given to wine, no striker, not greedy, of filthy lucre, but patient, not a brawler, not covetous.
So now you see many things. He can't be greedy of filthy lucre. He has to be in a place to where he's being mindful, being charitable. Read on.
One that ruleth well his own house.
That's what you're dealing with. One that ruleth well his own house. Read on.
Having his children in subjection with all gravity.
That's what you're looking at. He has to be in control of his situation. Can't have a situation where, once again, his kids being all reckless, things of that nature. Got son over there, drug dealer, and daughter over there, a hoe, and just all this other. He has to be able to have things in order. Read on.
For if a man know not how to rule his own house, how shall he take care of the church of the Most High?
Right, because your home isn't in order, because that's where your leadership first starts. If you're not leading and guiding your home properly, how then can you seek to go outside of that home and try to govern and lead a business, people, nation, kingdom? So now, read on.
Not a novice, lest being lifted up with pride, he fall into the condemnation of the devil.
So not a novice, not being someone who's new, who's early on. They have to have a certain level of experience, and have to be able to perform the job duties. Being able to have a sense in those things being done doesn't mean they can't be in a place to where that they have to be, they can't be young or old, things in nature. Those things are still fine. They just have to be in a place where they have the level of knowledge and understanding to perform what it is that they need to do. Because you have many kings and many prophets that were young as well. All right? So now read on. Actually,
One more.
Yeah, read on.
Moreover, he must have a good report.
He must have a what?
A good report.
A good report. Read.
Of them which are without, lest he fall into reproach and the snare of the devil.
So that's the biggest thing. He has to have a good report. People should be able to speak highly of this person. He can't be in a place where he wears the mask around these people, but then he goes elsewhere and it's, nah, man, he be, and taking money from here and he said he was going to pay me back. And then you can't have that. All right? So now, the next section is got to fear God. Get Deuteronomy 31 and 12. And then we're going to go to 2 Kings 17. Deuteronomy 31 and 12.
The book of Deuteronomy 31, verse 12. Gather the people together, men and women and children, and thy stranger that is within thy gates, that they may hear and that they may learn and fear the Lord your God.
See that you have to fear the Lord your God. But what does that mean? Get 2 Kings 17 and 34.
The book of 2 Kings 17 and verse 34. Unto this day they do after the former manners. They fear not the Lord, neither do they after their statutes, or after their ordinances, or after the law and commandment which the Lord commanded the children of Jacob, whom he named Israel.
That's the key thing. That fear of the Lord is walking, having that respect of the Most High to walk and to keep his laws, statutes, and commandments. That's what you're looking at as far as with the fear of God. Now the next thing is must be just. Get 2 Samuel chapter 23 and 3, that he must be just. Second Samuel 23 and 3.
The book of 2 Samuel 23 and verse 3. The God of Israel said, the rock of Israel spake to me. He that ruleth over men must be just.
It's all right if he just kind of okay.
Must be just.
He must be just. That is a requirement. This person must be just. Read.
Must be just, ruling in the fear of the Most High.
Ruling in the fear of the Most High. Get Romans 7 and 12. And then we're going to get Sirach 13. Romans chapter 7 and verse 12. He said, must be just, meaning what?
Book of Romans 7, verse 12. Wherefore the law is holy, and the commandment holy, and just.
And what?
And just.
And just. That's what it's dealing with. He must be keeping and abiding by these laws. Get Sirach 13, 5 through 8. Because it's a big reason why.
The book of Sirach 13 and verse 5.
Go ahead and read it.
If thou have anything, he will live with thee.
That's
Yea.
the big part. If you have anything, a lot of people, they'll be cool to deal with you. They'll be cool to kick it with you. Read.
If thou have anything, he will live with thee. Yea, he will make thee bear and will not be sorry for it.
That's the biggest thing. If you have something, because read verse 4.
If thou be for his profit, he will use thee.
That's the biggest thing. Thou be for his profit, he gonna use you.
But if thou have nothing, he will forsake thee.
That's the other side of it. If you don't have anything, he will forsake you. Read verse 6.
If he have need of thee, he will deceive thee.
If it's beneficial, and that's what you see with many of the politics, if it's beneficial, they'll fill your head up with so many things that they say they're going to do. We'll do this, and we'll change this. And, hey, whatever wins, whatever helps me win and gets me in the position that I need to be in. That's what I need to say and bring forth. That's the goal. Read on.
And smile upon thee, and put thee in hope.
Boy, so many of our people watching, they get put in hope. They be having a lot of hope off the words and things they hear from these different leaders and individuals. Like, man, I'm voting for that person. They got me. I really believe this one's going to be the one. This year's the change. It's going to happen. My golly. Put thee in hope. Read on.
He will speak thee fair.
Speak fair to you. Speak good to you. Peaceably. Good words. Read.
And say, what one is thou?
Say, what one is that? What can I do to help you? Well, yes, how can we help? What do you believe we should do in this situation? Well, yes, I definitely believe, we can find resolution. It's all a game. So now, get Leviticus 19 and 15. They must have proper judgment. Get Leviticus 19, 15.
The book of Leviticus 19, verse 15. Ye shall do no unrighteousness in judgment.
That's the key thing. You cannot do any unrighteousness in judgment. I mean, the XYZs, a lot of these judges, lawyers, a lot of these, a lot of these court systems, they got to go. Because there's a gang of injustice going on. Read on.
Ye shall do no unrighteousness in judgment. Thou shalt not respect the person of the poor, nor honor the person of the mighty.
And that's exactly what it is that a lot of these, this whole system, does. They put in a place to where they make sure, contrary to what the scriptures say, that they respect and honor the person of the mighty, and they make sure that they do not respect the person of the poor. Read on.
But in righteousness shalt thou judge thy neighbor.
And they do it in wickedness. In wickedness, they judge their neighbor. So now, go ahead and get Deuteronomy 6 and 25. It says, but in righteousness shalt thou judge thy neighbor. What is our righteousness? Deuteronomy 6 and 25.
The book of Deuteronomy 6 and verse 25. And it shall be our righteousness if we observe to do all these commandments before the Lord our God as he hath commanded us.
See, righteousness isn't just picking your preferences. It's making sure that you're doing everything to keep this as a whole, to be righteous, to be just, to be good, to be perfect. That's what you have to do. And get 1 John chapter 3 and verse 7.
1 John 3 and verse 7. Little children, let no man deceive you.
That's the first thing. It said, look, let no man deceive you. Because many people say, you can't be righteous, can't be good, can't be just. Yes, you can. Because the scripture don't say you can. The scripture tell you to make sure that you're just, righteous, perfect, upright. Scriptures speak that you're supposed to do that. Read that. Continue reading. 1 John 3 and 7.
Little children, let no man deceive you. He that doeth righteousness is righteous.
That's it. He that's doing righteousness, if you're a brother or sister executing these laws, you're righteous. You're doing the right thing. You're that just individual. That's it. No one can take that from you. So now the next is making sure you're not walking in partiality. Get 1 Timothy 5:21. You got to make sure as a leader, they cannot be walking in partiality. Let's get 1 Timothy 5 and 21.
1 Timothy 5 verse 21. I charge thee before God and the Lord Jesus Christ, that the elect angels, that thou observe these things without preferring one before another, doing nothing by partiality.
That's the key thing. That's the goal, to make sure you're not doing these things, but preferring it and sticking to certain things you observe, certain things you don't. because it's just how you feel. You can't do that. Give 1 Ezra 8 and 7.
Book of 1 Ezra 8 and verse 7. For thou art alone, and we will.
1 Ezra chapter 8 and verse 7.
First Esdras 8 and 7. For Esdras had very great skill.
Because Ezra had very great skill, read.
So that he omitted nothing of the law and commandments of the Lord, but taught all Israel the ordinances and judgments.
So he made sure that he did not omit anything from the law. That's what he made sure. Knowing I'm held accountable for everything it is that goes forth out of my mouth. And everything it is that I am teaching or I'm not teaching the people. So I need to make sure I do not omit anything. I don't overlook anything. I don't try to say, that ain't that important. We'd be all right without that. Nah, let me check it. Let me double check it. That's the biggest thing we try to make sure we're doing more of and making sure we're going back and making sure everything is correct. Doctrine is correct. Let's look back into this. Let's check back in. Let's weigh it in the balance. What about this? To make sure righteous judgment, righteous laws are going forth to the people and that we're guiding them aright to the best of our ability, to where we stand before the Most High, especially as leaders, because we're held to a greater level of, everything, judgment, conviction, we're held to a greater level to where, hey, you got to be able to answer the Most High, and that's for leaders everywhere. What you did and did not do, how you guided the people, because you got souls on the line that are looking to you for that guidance. Because although they're supposed to still do their own research, but they looking to you for that guidance, so you got that accountability. So you got to make sure you do your homework and you double check. Get James 3 and 17. Book of James chapter 3 and verse 17.
Book of James 3 and verse 17. But the wisdom that is from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, and easy to be entreated, full of mercy and good fruits, without partiality and without hypocrisy.
You see that? So when you're dealing with the wisdom of these scriptures, it lets you know that it is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, and easy to be entreated, full of mercy and good fruits, but the key is without partiality. When someone's truly looking at these laws, you're going to see that it's without partiality. And there's no way it could have just been invented by man, because it speaks against all the vices of man. All the vices that men and women like to do, it speaks against. And it speaks of true righteousness. And it's without hypocrisy. But the ones that become hypocritical is us as people. We're the ones that become hypocritical, but not the law. So now it's also going to deal with that good leader's going to educate his people. Yasharahla, chapter 10, verse 1 through 2.
The book of Sirach 10, verse 1. A wise judge will instruct his people, and the government of a prudent man is well ordered.
So it says a wise judge is going to make sure they're teaching and educating their people. And his government is going to be well ordered. There's thought. He's contemplating on how he's trying to get these things to run to be more effective. Read on.
As the judge of the people is himself.
Because that's the key thing. How that leader is, the people are going to start to gravitate and cleave unto similar attributes, because that's the way he's governing and running things. Especially when you just look at it, the biggest part of it, the brunt of it being, if that man is wicked, the people are going to be wicked because wickedness is what is going for. That's what they're saying. But if he's righteous, then the people are, for the most part, going to be righteous, especially as the majority, because they're seeing righteousness being gone out and enforced. That's the way that it's going to be. Read on. With that all too? Read on.
So are his officers, and what manner of man the ruler of the city is, such are all they that dwell therein.
Right. Now let's get Psalms 50 and 16.
The book of Psalm 50 and verse 16. But unto the wicked God said, What hast thou to do to declare my statutes, or what thou shouldest take my or that thou shouldest take my covenant in thy mouth?
When he said unto the wicked, and wicked primarily is dealing first and foremost with the other nations. That when he said unto them that, look, what hast thou to do to declare my statutes? The other nations have no business trying to teach anything out of these scriptures, because the Most High is not dealing with the other nations. That's why he says, what is thou to do to declare my statutes, my laws? Or that thou shouldest take my covenant in thy mouth. That you can even speak on, because that's one of the first things, I don't think they still do anymore, but swear on the Bible. Tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, day and nature. And make it seem as if they try to uphold the things that it says. When they really, it's all a facade. They really just set it to the side and bring out the law they really want to follow and try to follow.
Their policies.
Yeah, their policies. That's why they're politics. That's what they have. So now get Isaiah 10 and 1. What did the Most High say unto them?
The book of Isaiah 10 and verse 1. Woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees, and that write grievousness which they have prescribed.
You see that? It says, woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees. Meaning when you're putting things in writing that you know are not righteous or not just, it says destruction unto those individuals. And it says in that right, grievousness, which they have prescribed. Because at the end of the day, it's in the power of the pen, but it's all within their hand to do, to decide. But they choose to make the lives of others grievous through the thing that they're saying, hey, this is what should be done in this situation. You said so many times, like I mentioned earlier, with even like with police brutality. So many things, it's in the power of their hands, but a lot of these cops get off scot-free. So a lot of them don't get indicted. If they do get indicted, don't really get convicted. But all based upon what is being written and they're saying is being prescribed to what is being best to treat this situation, how to treat it, which is corrupt. So now let's go ahead and get the last one, example of a voting process. Let's get Acts chapter 1, 16 to 26. This is the last passage we'll get.
The book of Acts 1, verse 16. Men and brethren, this scripture must needs have been fulfilled, which the Holy Ghost by the mouth of David spake before concerning Judas, which was the guide to them that took Jesus. 17. For he was numbered with us and had obtained part of this ministry. Now this man purchased a field with the reward of iniquity, and falling headlong, he burst asunder in the midst, and all of his vows gushed out.
Right, because they're dealing with Judas Iscariot, and his betrayal and what happened to him. All right, so they had in a place to where they called what we call their general assembly or a meeting, in which they call, which you can read, up in verse, 15. It actually says,
And in those days, Peter stood up in the midst of the disciples and said, the number of names together were about 120.
So now that's what you had. Now go ahead and skip down and continue reading in verse 19 now.
And it was known unto all the dwellers at Jerusalem, insomuch as that field is called in their proper tongue Aceldama, that is to say, the field of blood. For it is written in the book of Psalms, let his habitation be desolate, and let no man dwell therein, and his bishopric let another take.
Because we don't understand those main key 12 disciples, they were all bishops. They were all leaders over the organization, set up to be leaders over the organization that Christ was guiding them and grooming them up to be. Read on.
Wherefore of these men which have company with us all at the time that the Lord Jesus went in and among us, beginning from the baptism of John unto the same day that he was taken up from us, must one be ordained to be a witness with us as his resurrection. And they appointed two, Joseph called Barsabas, who was surnamed Justus, and Matthias. And they prayed and said, Thou Lord, which knowest the hearts of all men, show whether of these two thou hast chosen.
So now, they prayed. That was one of the first things that they did after selecting the candidates that had shown and proven themselves the most out of all those that they could have considered. That, all right, well, first, we have these two men who we've known, we've shown their reputation, but at the same time, let's make sure we pray unto the Most High to make sure that, hey, have mercy and make sure that help guide us, make sure that the wisest choice is made. Read on.
That he may take part of his ministry and apostleship, from which Judas by transgression fell, that he might go to his own place. And they gave forth their lots.
Their lots, that is the voting. When you see one going ahead and casting lots, they're casting lots, meaning they're casting lots, they're bidding on, hey, what is, I believe this person, I'm casting my lot and I'm casting my vote in. Read on.
And they gave forth their lots, and the lot fell upon Matthias, and he was numbered with the 11 apostles.
He was numbered with the 11 apostles, meaning he now became the 12th. So now that's an example there as far as, how, they did that. So, but it was all in a situation of just individuals, just men that fulfilled the things that we went over earlier. So when it comes down to should we vote in this modern day society, no, because we're not electing someone who is of our people and that is keeping the laws, statutes, and commandments. So that's the biggest thing. What we have to do is make sure that we build amongst ourselves, keep these laws, get right, teach each other to be right, and ordain and choose leaders from amongst our own that have our best interests at heart and to help guide us to the Most High and not away from the Most High. All right? So with that, go ahead and say shalom, close out this lesson. All right? And any announcements, things of that nature?